Hi, this is Gerry Lewy again with another very interesting video on Azure. A-Z, or I'm sorry, A-Z, or Canada's A-Z-U-R-E. Can you imagine about 50 to 75 or even 100 years ago when a diamond setter was drilling holes on the top part of the piece of metal? He had to make a little diagram or a little ornamental design underneath the actual piece. And this is what he did. He got his onglet. In those days they only had one or two onglets, but what I did myself a short time ago was using a number 1 or number 2 onglet graver. Again, nothing else, just a number 1 or number 2 graver, and make these little patterns underneath each hole. I'm going to turn this over, and this is what Azure really is. Can you imagine setting stones on top, then also using either a saw blade to make these little patterns from underneath? And here is the nice part. All this was done by me, using a number 1 onglet. Number 1 onglet with a right-sided cutting blade. I didn't use number 2 because it was too wide. And all this was done, and it took me about almost an hour to cut a square out of a round hole. Difficult? You bet it was. And this is what it started out with, and this is what I ended up with. And this is called Azure. And the finer jewelers had to do this using a saw blade, putting the saw blade through the top part of the piece of jewelry they're working on, and cut this out by hand. But I had the luxury of using my number 1 onglet, bright cut it, and this is what I got. Tedious, but this is my demo. I show my students what Azure really is. This is the ultimate in using the graver. So from this, you get that. Is it hard? It's beyond hard. It's beyond, oh my God, it's really difficult. And you need about a couple of years, I always say to you on the other videos, you need a couple of years experience to be able to cut the gravers. But what happens if all the holes are not in place? They're not in a line. Well, I'm going to show you this in a moment. I'm going to recalibrate my camera, and you'll see what happens. Okay, I'm going to stop the camera, and we'll go to the next problem. I've created some problems, and this is going to be very interesting for you to look at.